Greetings, my friends. Please consider supporting me in my war to save pop culture by subscribing to my channel and possibly even becoming a channel member for exclusive videos, access to Doomcock emojis, and more. And if you like this video in particular, please consider using the new Super Thanks feature and putting a tip in the tip jar located next to the like buttons down at the bottom of the video. Thank you for watching, and now, on to the video. My God, what a disgrace. Amazon just wasted 2 hours of my life. My God, what a spectacular failure. It beggars belief. I mean, I am reeling from what I just saw, a billion-dollar dumpster fire called Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Folks, Doomcock has seen many things in his life, but Doomcock has never seen that much money wasted in so short a time on anything else in pop culture to so little effect. The only thing this show does successfully is piss off Tolkien fans, and any competent SJW cultural vandal piece of trash could have done that a lot faster and a lot cheaper. Just make everyone gay and shoot the whole thing in the woods just outside of Lilith Fair with the cast of Batwoman. You'd have saved $995 million and gotten the same effect. Literally, I'm stunned, folks. I don't know where to begin to chronicle the countless failures of this show. How do I despise thee? Let me count the ways. Let's start with the most obvious shit and get that right out of the way, and then we'll discuss the ways Amazon failed that frankly beggar belief. Amazon Prime's Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power is pound for pound the most expensive and pointless original show ever aired on Prime, maybe ever aired on a streaming platform. In terms of quality, I personally think Kurtzman Trek is even worse, but when you factor into the equation Tolkien's importance in Western literature and the obscene amount of money they spent on this sad waste of time, I think this is an even bigger train wreck than Star Trek under Kurtzman. The idiots who made this spent so much money on it that Amazon is reportedly gambling the entire original streaming future of Prime itself here, all by making a Lord of the Rings that isn't Lord of the Rings at all. Not really. Oh sure, they used the right nouns. People, places, and things are named correctly, yeah, but their context is so twisted. Their spirit so fundamentally wrong in all but the most basic of ways. It's an insult to Tolkien and his fans. They've turned an epic piece of Western literature into a dumbass girl power action show with Galadriel playing Jack Bauer. Excuse me, I mean Jackie Bauer. Or maybe I should call her the man from Galadriel, or just Mikey Spock 2, The Reckoning. Emphasis on the wreck. I'd like to ask the Amazon marketing department, who is this thing for exactly? This thing isn't true to Tolkien, so it's not for Lord of the Rings fans. And the actors, the outfits, the stunt casting, the terrible effects, and a script that moves at the speed of mulch are so bargain basement, it means that this thing isn't for casual fans either. So who the hell is this thing for exactly anyway?
Woke wankers, maybe? That's as near as I can figure it. It's a slow burn, meaning it's slow, and you want to find every print and burn it.
Yeah, pretty much. Only it's digital, so it won't burn at all, meaning this crap isn't even good as potential fuel this winter. So look, let's talk canon for a minute. The atrocious Tolkien canon violations of the Rings of Power have been well and thoroughly documented even before the show aired, because the flaws in the approach of these cultural vandals who view Tolkien's work as a platform for social justice bullshit rather than one of the most epic narratives ever created outside of the Mahabharata are obvious without even airing the show, just from the advertising materials. Stunt casting, changing the plot and focus to emphasize feminist empowerment over fidelity to the source material, woke subtexts. We knew all of this was coming. This idiotic show aims to condense about 1,800 years of epic Middle-earth continuity into 5 seasons of television, without even jumping between ages. I mean, holy shit! They mean to distill nearly 2,000 years of lore into what, a few years over 5 seasons? This is insulting to Tolkien and fans and narrative integrity and just plain common sense. And they did all of this in order to turn Galadriel from a vital and powerful force for good, a mythic figure who fills all who behold her majesty with awe, into just another action hero, the bestest ever, and the key to everything. Galadriel is Mikey Spock 2.0 for fuck's sake, and they have stripped her of all mystique just to make her another strong warrior woman yawn. Good God. Rings of Power at its heart is just another girl power pile of shit designed to fight the patriarchy, put the boys in their place, and I guess inspire girls to take up arms against, I don't know, and join STEM. Time and time again, it's the women on this show who are right, the women who kill the cave trolls and the goblins, the women who try to tell the boys there's a problem and the boys never believe them because boys are smug and part of the patriarchy and girls are better, but the boys won't acknowledge it. They completely emasculate Elrond and the great Gil-galad by making them ignore Galadriel's warnings about Sauron, that he is still alive and still out there. And then the writers try to salvage this in a scene where Elrond and Gil-galad privately concede that Galadriel is right and Sauron is still out there. But doesn't that make it worse? Because now they're making out that Elrond and Gil-galad are gaslighting Galadriel, making choices for her, knowing she's right and lying to her. So Elrond and Gil-galad are both exemplifying everything the SJWs hate about the patriarchy, talking down to women and dismissing them and lying to them, even though they know she's right? Way to sodomize Tolkien, you worthless scumbags. This show is full of subtle and not so subtle wokeness like this. Amazon views Tolkien as a platform, not a narrative, not a legend, not a myth. For God's sakes, is this Amazon or the CW? It's really hard to tell while watching this show. What is the point of this fucking trash, you ask? You tell me, because I don't know. I don't have a clue. This thing is just rife with canon problems, folks. All of them born from an SJW obsession to take this epic myth with lore established over decades and turn it into a vehicle to make Galadriel the bestest ever. She's Joan of Arc, she's Rambo, she's Aragorn, son of Arathorn, she's Arnold and Stallone and Mikey Spock all rolled into one. We knew that was coming, so I'm not going to waste a whole lot more time harping on that here. Let's talk about the two worst things about this show, folks, aside from the canon violations. I'll be discussing canon violations with experts on Pop Culture Breakdown this Sunday, but I hope to reach the general public with this review to warn them away from wasting 2 hours of their lives as I did on this trash. So at this point, I want to ask the simple question: how was the show itself? Was it entertaining? My friends, holy shit. For all the canon violations, the two most amazing things about Rings of Power are how boring it is and how cheap it looks. My God, it's dull. The real name of this show should be Bored of the Rings. No kidding, folks. This show consists of a ton of exposition presented in a leisurely way, so effective at putting you to sleep, Amazon is about to be sued by the maker of Ambien. Along with a few obligatory mediocre action scenes to show us all what an action heroine Galadriel is, sprinkled sparingly through the show when it gets so boring, even the woke script writers notice and say, well, we better throw in a quick cave troll or a fucking sea serpent before everyone passes out and misses the agenda. This show is all but lifeless, just generic and bland, with the kind of character development you typically find in a progressive commercial, only spread out for 2 hours over 2 episodes. No kidding, folks, I don't give a shit about these people. 2 hours in, and I just don't care about any of them. And the look of it? It's hard to describe exactly in what way it looks cheap. But let me try. I cannot believe how shoddy and fake things look in the Rings of Power. With a few exceptions, the magnificent minds of Khazad-dûm, for example, that was one of the few scenes that even remotely compared to the excellent effects in Peter Jackson's trilogy. All too often, the actors do not look like they're connected to their artificial world. Mostly the actors look like they're acting in front of digital backdrops, computer game backgrounds that they've been composited into. Here are a few examples. Galadriel is returned to the elven stronghold of Lindon after her long mission trying to track down Sauron in order to meet with Elrond. She is greeted as a hero, along with her military unit, which she commanded, and which is a canon violation in and of itself, by the way, as Galadriel was not a military commander, or a warrior, really, for that matter. Anyway, there's a scene in the woods outside of Lindon at night that is supposed to take our breath away. And it does, because it knocks the breath out of you seeing how fake it looks. Now, this is supposed to be a magical scene in the forest, overwhelming us with beauty, with fireworks, glows, trees, elves, but holy fuckaroli, it looks fake as a $4 bill with Frodo's face on it, printed upside down. It looks like Elrond and Galadriel are standing in front of a rendered scene on a wraparound screen, which is probably exactly what they're doing, but should the audience know that? Should they notice it? If this is the same tech as what Disney uses in shooting The Mandalorian, Amazon isn't using it right. It needs to crack open the user manual because this shit sucks. The environments in The Mandalorian look real. This looks like high-def video in a layer above a rendered background. That's how shoddy it looked to me. Another instance of this is the scene in Lindon when Elrond first greets Galadriel after her return. The backgrounds look pretty good when isolated from the actors. But whenever you have live actors composited into the scene, somehow the overall effect is terribly cheap, like the actors are running at 30 frames per second instead of 24. It's not that exactly, I'm sure the frame rate is fine, it's just I'm having trouble describing the cheapness of the effect. It's like this world is entirely situated in an uncanny valley, and I'm constantly reminded that these are effects, not environments. So how is the casting? Casting is meh, folks. Truly meh. Galadriel is just okay. Not as stiff as Mikey Spock, but not as realistic as, a human being. Elrond is spectacularly underwhelming. I mean, like eating white bread with jam made out of cardboard. This version of Elrond suffers terribly in comparison to Jackson's Elrond. Indeed, everything about this production is substandard compared to Peter Jackson's amazing trilogy. Now look, I know this is television, but Amazon chose this project. And when you do anything Tolkien, you automatically invite the comparison. And frankly, as much as they spent on this shit, it ought to look as good as the movies. They're spending as much on this trash as Jackson spent, so there's no reason why this thing should at least look as good as the Jackson's trilogy. But Rings of Power looks like a video game adaptation of Jackson's trilogy made by guys who never fucking watched it. As for the plot, I'm going to walk through the plot in detail and discuss the canon violations with Tolkien experts on Pop Culture Breakdown this Sunday night at 7 p.m. Central, but I'd like to touch on the worst scenes in the show right now, and believe me, they were jaw-droppingly bad. The worst scene comes at the beginning, in Galadriel's first action scene. So after a hilariously terrible effects scene, where Galadriel and her band of action elves are climbing a bunch of pixels shaped in the form of an icy mountain that looks as real as a kid in a Ben Cooper Halloween costume, fuck me with a sideboard, this thing was phony as a Section 31 TV show announcement. The elves come finally in darkness to a ruined fortress. They seek shelter inside, but it is clearly a stronghold of evil, for even the torches give off no heat. Because things have been really slow up to now and they need something to wake the audience up, they stick in an action scene for Jackie Bauer with a cave troll, ta-da! While Galadriel is away in another chamber detecting traces of Sauron, the boys get attacked and massacred helplessly by a giant ice troll, cave troll, whatever the hell he is. They're just getting their pointy-eared asses handed to them until Galadriel hears them squealing like Ned Beatty in Deliverance. So Mama Bear comes running to save them and put that patriarchal ice troll in its place, but it's how she does it that's so awful. Oh man, this was bad. Get this, folks. So the ice troll is cutting through all the dumb boy elves, but ha-ha! Galadriel and her lieutenant Thorondir come out of the inner chamber where the attack is happening, and oh god, this is so bad. Thorondir puts down his sword at an angle, And I can't believe how bad this looks, folks. Galadriel somehow runs up the blade and then glides off the blade, soaring through the air in the phoniest way possible on wires like Peter fucking Pan in a high school production, and she comes down on top of the ice troll and smites it. And they don't confer about this wire foo trick at all beforehand. They don't even talk about it. It's just like, hey, they do this all the time. This is standard operating procedure. The wire foo here is just jaw-droppingly awful. Oh my God. Then she stabs the ice troll in the head for good measure as it tries to get up. There are no words, folks. This is what they've done to Tolkien. To quote Don Corleone in The Godfather,
"Look how they massacred my boy."
Yeah, look how they massacred my boy. Amazon has massacred Tolkien, all right. This is sad. The depth of this failure is staggering. There are only 8 episodes in season 1. We are 25% finished and nothing engaging has happened. Maybe instead of being obsessed with social justice and using Lord of the Rings as a platform to put the patriarchy in its place, the writers should have taken writing lessons. We're over 2 hours into this sad saga, folks. 2 hours into Fellowship of the Ring, I was hooked and couldn't wait to see more. I'd been moved, filled with awe. I knew who the characters were and I cared about each and every one of them. I'd seen wonders 2 hours into Fellowship of the Ring, but that wasn't just Peter Jackson's filmmaking, it was the wonderful writing as well. Jackson left me wanting more, always more. This left me wishing I had those 2 hours of my life back. I bought and have watched many times the extended cuts of all the Jackson movies. I guarantee you, I will never watch this crap again. The Rings of Power commits egregious crimes against the legacy of the great J.R.R. Tolkien, that much is clear, violating the facts of the story and the intents of those facts, the spirit of that myth. But its greatest crime may well be how shallow, pointless, and dull the whole fucking thing is. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha.